What's going on, everybody? It's ShamefulPenguin here, back with another video. Today we're going to be going over the Freezing Pulse Ice Spear Totem Hierophant Guide. If you guys followed my Leveling with Penguin series, you guys will directly follow into this. And this is meant to replicate like early league, day 2, day 3 characters, and not anything further. I want to make this like easy for like new players, experienced players who are like want to see simulations of early league, so they can build it into this build. I know when I say budget, some people are like expecting me to spend like 2x or whatever. Dude, I spend like 20-30 C, and that's like cap on what I would spend for early league, because that's all I expect to have. Some league starts I have not a good time and I don't get as much currency, so I want this to be accessible to everyone. So let's get into it. So what you're seeing here is the clearing for Freezing Pulse Totem and Ice Spear Totem. As you can tell, that the Freezing Pulse Totem clears so much faster, but the Ice Spear Totem is way better at single target DPS. So you can choose what you want to swap for. You can go only Freezing Pulse, or you can go only Ice Spear Totem if that's what you desire. Freezing Pulse will struggle with like endgame bosses for sure. Many of the conquerors, you'll take a lot longer to do the fight. Ice Spear will clear those a lot faster, so if you want to swap only for those big fights, that's probably your best option. But if you want to go only Ice Spear, that's perfectly doable. I actually linked Pierce into the skill links to make this happen, and the clearing's actually not as bad as I thought, so you can definitely use only one of the skills if that's what you prefer. I have that in the POBs about what links, and I typed up what the name of each one is, so you guys will find that in the POB if you guys are interested. So yeah, let's get into the gearing. So gearing is the most important thing for league start, definitely, because you want to know what you're getting into. So yes, this is a 6 link, but I've only been using it as a 5 link, and I think a 5 link Soul Mantle is perfectly doable by day 2. So I found that to be justified. Soul Mantle itself, with like any link on it, probably like 2C, 3C, unless Grimro kills the price. Thanks, Grim. And because he made an Ice Spear whatever totem build last league. So Soul Mantle's all really cheap, really easy drop to get, and pretty much it's a pseudo extra link with the supports. Our gems are supported by a level 20 spell totem, so we get an extra link for free. This makes this build do a lot more damage, so definitely go for this as soon as possible. But when you get this, you're gonna have to make sure your ring slots are gonna be gone. You're gonna have 2 Kikazaru rings, and this is to mitigate the curse effect, because every time our totem dies, we get a curse, and as you can see, we get a bunch of curses stacked up on ourselves. And we'll pretty much get one shot by a lot of things in the game, because this is a lot of damage we're going to be taking. So to mitigate that, we get Kikazaru rings. This is a 40% reduced effect, so in total we have 80. We get the last 20% from this node right here, Sanctum of Thoughts, to get 100% mitigation of curses. And now curses don't, it says we have them, but we don't take extra damage from them, so we're pretty good. So this is the main thing you're going to be looking for in your build. As soon as you're in maps, look into buying these and 2 Kikazaru rings. Kikazaru rings should be like 1 to 2 C each. A Soul Mantle on a 4 link. I mean, just buy any link and 4 link it yourself. Should be really, really cheap. It's never been that much in any of the leagues. So these are your mandatory things. Also, you get one from leveling at first snow. So one of these is free. If you're playing Freezing Pulse, you use a first snow 100% of the time. It pretty much just adds a lesser multiple projectile link to your gem, pretty much. So it makes it so other than shooting 1 Freezing Pulse, it shoots 3. And then if you have 2 of them on, because you can have a limit of 2, it's like having a GMP on, so it shoots 5 Freezing Pulse. So pretty awesome. This makes clearing so much faster. That's what you guys saw in my build. But when you guys are going for Ice Spear, you're going to want to make sure you take those off, because they're not actually helping you. And you're going to grab one of these jewels. It's called Rain of Splinters. It should also be super duper cheap. It's pretty much the same thing as First Snow, except for it applies to all totem projectiles, so it applies to our ice spear. Yeah, I get reduced totem damage or whatever, but the 2 extra projectiles on ice spear, it's pretty much doubling the projectiles of ice spear, because without it we're only firing 2. Put this on, now we're firing 4 projectiles, so it's pretty much double damage. So 100% worth it. Definitely take random splinters if you're running it, get it as soon as possible. And another really helpful unique jewel is self-flagellation. This gives us 13%, well, it can give us up to 20% damage per curse on you. And this is really nice because, as you guys can tell, we have a buttload of, so each one of these curses is pretty much giving us 13% more damage, so that's a buttload of damage. So get that. It's also a cheap jewel. And if you can't get, like, if you're SSF, the main thing you're looking for is Soul Mantle and Kigazaru, most importantly, and then get the jewels for sure. And you're going to be really good. You're going to be able to do early red maps with this kind of setup. Let's get into the rest of the items. So we got our wand. We're using wand shield because I wanted to use shield because it's more defensive. You can definitely double wand or double scepter, whatever you want to do, but I think wand shield is my favorite way to play, because I like to use a shield just to be more defensive. I did have this build originally super defensive, but limited it down. So on our wand, you want crit. I didn't get any crit, but you want crit chance of spells like a really high, or crit multi. Those are the best. +1 to cold spells is also top tier, but I did have a +1 to cold spell wand before, as you guys probably saw. I think it was Act 10 I got one, or Act 9 maybe. No, actually I got it in the beginning of the game, but I couldn't get another roll on it, so it was like a 1 link, or a 1 mod pretty much. So you want spell damage, cold damage to spells, cast speed. Those are like the next best after crit multi and +1. And you can just check your DPS, just like hover over your DPS and try different wands. But definitely you're going to want a combination of as many of the good rolls as you can get, and make sure they're high values as well. So what I did to craft this wand, actually, it just so happened that it just started to be standard today, right as we're recording this. But I was actually using the Shrieking Essence of Suffering. I had a bunch of these. It's really easy to farm for essences in this league, possibly next league as well, thanks to this node right here, Controlled Corruption. This is over in Haywork Hamlet. Running these essence, you get so many essence over time. So I slammed this on my wands, and you just hope for the best pretty much, and this is what I got. I got spell damage with the cold damage to spells, and then I got mana, which of course we want because we're Mind Over Matter. Mind Over Matter makes us take damage from our mana before our life, so really good defensive spell. And yeah, so your wand should just have a bunch of damage on it, crit if you can, but spell damage, cold damage if you can. Our shield, kind of the same thing. You want crit, cold damage if you can. I got this really cruddy one, and this is all SSF gear other than the uniques, of course. This one had like really good life, so I just used it because why not? Having a lot of life is really helpful. But you're gonna want like damage, crit. You can get all that stuff on your shield as well. That's why shields are so OP, because you can get all that, plus you have chance to block. So it's just like defensive and damage. It's really awesome. The helmet, you just want life, mana, and resistance. Gloves, life, mana, resistance. Boots, life, mana, resistance, and you want movement speed for sure on your boots. Don't worry about any of the enchantments. We're ignoring enchantments because it's early league build. Next we want to talk about, so amulet, I went for just generic amulet, life, mana, resistance. You can actually get cast speed, you can get crit multi, you can get cold damage, spell damage on your amulet. So if you're overcapped on resistance, it's really good to also get some damage. I anointed Mark for Death because I was just trying out different anointments to see what I like. Mark for Death is kind of expensive, so Mark for Death is down here. Gives you Culling Strike against marked enemies, and we're using Sniper's Mark because we're Ice Spear Totem, so you want Sniper's Mark for sure. and this gives us Cooling Strike for free pretty much against marked enemies. So this is a really good damaging, and I really like this. But if you want to anoint something super cheap, you go for Deflection right here. It's really cheap. Opalescent is not too hard to get, like day 2, day 3 if you've been farming, if you've been running all of the blight missions in your maps. So you should definitely be able to do this day 1 if you get a decent amulet. Put Deflection on it. It's just free defenses, and it's really good. It partners well with their shield and all the block stuff we have. As for a belt, just life, mana, resistance is the usual. And yeah, our flasks, I'm not going to really go over flasks too much because the development manifesto was yesterday for 3.16, and flasks are going to be really weird now. So I don't know. So you guys are going to have to watch like your own flask videos. You do want mana flask, maybe not enduring. I don't know anymore. I don't know what they're going to do with flasks entirely. But you do run out of mana a decent amount if you're getting hit a lot. If you're taking a lot of small hits and stuff, you do run out of mana pretty fast. So having a mana flask is like a second life flask, so it's pretty helpful. Of course you want crit diamond flask, but they're nerfing it pretty hard. It might be not used anymore, so probably a Quicksilver still. That's all I'm going to say about flasks. I don't know what they're doing. So we're going to go over our links now. So we got our Ice Spear. So this is our Ice Spear for our clearing. If you're going to use Ice Spear for clearing, which is probably if you enjoy it, you're going to use Ice Spear. Controlled Destruction is getting nerfed pretty hard. We might not. This has an asterisk near it. You use Added Cold, Hypothermia. So actually, I'll put it down here. I'll put it down here. There's a new order of operations for these gems. So Controlled Destruction is getting nerfed kind of hard in 3.16 for its crit. It's getting crit multi away, so we might not be using this anymore. Might not be best in slot. So Ice Spear for sure. You're gonna have your Spell Totem. If you don't have Soul Mantle, you're gonna have to use Spell Totem support. Do I have one over here just to use as a pseudo? Yeah, I do. So Spell Totem's a maybe. You want Added Cold, definitely. It's a lot of extra damage. Hypothermia. Let me grab all my stuff. So your first link's of course Ice Spear. Spell Totem if you don't already have it. Then you're gonna want Cold. You're gonna want Hypothermia. And then my choice is multiple totems as my fourth link, because it makes it so you get +2 and you summon 2 at a time. Without this, you can see I summon 1 at a time, and the max I can have is 4 now. But with this, the max I can have is now 6. So it is a good damage increase. It's more quality of life than damage. Keep that in mind. Control Destruction, TLDR as a pseudo 5th link. And then either it's going to be Pierce. Pierce is going to be your clearing, because when Ice Spear shoot, when they're in their first form, they don't pierce, so they'll hit something and just die, and they won't go. After a certain amount of distance traveled, they'll go into a second form and pierce everything. And you put Pierce just in case, because when you're farming maps, monsters will run into the totems, and if you have Pierce support, it'll pierce those and then go to second form pretty much every time. So you sustain damage. It's really helpful. If you're doing it for single target, you're of course going to want Cold Pen. So those are your 6 links. You're going to put Pierce as your 5th link or your 4th link or whatever your max link is, if you're going to be using it for clearing maps for sure. So for our Freezing Pulse setup, all you're going to do is put Freezing Pulse where Ice Spear is, and you're done. Easy enough. You're also going to switch your jewels. So I would go put in my jewel, take out Rain of Splinters, and I'll take out just one random jewel. And now you have your Freezing Pulse setup. Now you're never going to use Pierce for Freezing Pulse because it always pierces, so you're going to use Cold Pen as your 6th link pretty much all the time. So that's how your those are your gem swaps. It's pretty much one gem right there, and then you swap your jewels when you do your gem swap. It's pretty simple, and you can gem swap as much as you feel comfortable doing. If you guys don't want gem swaps at all, then figure out which one you like better. More links. So we use Sniper's Mark, but we don't use Sniper's Mark on enemies. We actually cast Arcanist brands, and we use brands to Arcanist brand will cast the spell attached to it. So you're going to want Sniper's Mark in the top left corner of your link with Arcanist brand, because Arcanist brand will summon the top left and then top right and then bottom left, and it'll continuously cast those spells in that rotation. So you want Sniper's Mark to be cast first all the time, so make sure it's in your top left. Sniper's Mark just makes it so when it hits an enemy, projectiles chain across to enemies or whatever. They just split off the target. So when you're using Ice Spear, that's when you see the whole shotgunning crazy visuals. That's because of Sniper's Mark, and it makes it really good. Next, you're going to want, actually Frostbomb would be better on your second spot, but I just didn't have the colors right. Frostbomb just gives a debuff, so we get cold exposure, 15% cold resistance. Frostbomb isn't actually doing any damage because of Ancestral Bond, but yeah, we'll get into that later. Then we have Blade Blast to just unnerve enemies. This actually is going to change in 3.16 because Blade Blast will no longer unnerve enemies. So this is going to change for sure. But pretty much everything else seems like they're going to be the same. The Dev Manifesto didn't really touch on this build, just FYI. Next we got Flame Dash, Second Wind, Arcane Surge, just to upkeep our Arcane Surge permanently, so we get our mana regen. Arcane Surge isn't going to give us cast speed anymore. Pretty sad, but we're still going to want that nice mana regen for this build. Next, we're going to have cast when damage taken, Tempest Shield. This is just to give us extra block, just for free. So cast when damage taken is going to cost mana now from our Tempest Shield, but it's going to be pretty easy to sustain because we have insane mana. Clarity, just so we pretty much always have really good mana regen, so we want Clarity for sure. Next, we have Arcane Cloak. This is our defensive spell. We get rid of a bunch of our mana, but we have a lot of defense for a very long time. We have Second Wind, Arcane Surge, and increased duration on this, just to upkeep it as much as possible. Give ourselves Arcane Surge again, and Second Wind just so it cools down. This might not be used anymore because they're nerfing the cooldown recovery of Second Wind. Probably still going to use it on Flame Dash because it just gives +1. But we might find we might use efficacy or something other than Second Wind, just so it's like increased duration. Lastly, the last links are kind of just whatever you want. I had nothing in here. I was just leveling up gems. But your last link is probably going to be a bunch of Vol gems. So like Vol Haste, increased duration, Vol Righteous Fire. Just to have things to hit to do maximum damage. If you're doing this build for a bossing, having Vol Righteous Fire and Vol Haste just to pop when you want to do maximum amount of damage on your Ice Spear is really good to have. So definitely that's going to be the fourth link. Check the POB for other possible links if I change anything in the future. That's where I'll put all my changes. So that's pretty much it for the gem links. Hopefully that made the most sense to you guys. I tried to explain everything I could in a good amount of time. We got to go over a passive tree now. So our passive tree has taken a lot of changes in the past few days for me. I've used so many regret orbs because I wanted to make this build feel correct, make it feel good for early mapping and stuff. And the biggest problem I had with this build is it didn't feel like I had enough DPS. I was originally running agnostic on this build. This makes it so we sacrifice our mana to regen a lot of life, and this is really strong, but I felt it was unnecessary a lot. I felt like I was living. I had enough defenses for an SSF or for a trade league build and stuff. I wasn't hardcore. If I am hardcore, I would possibly consider going back into agnostic, but what I felt this build lacked mostly was the fact that it just didn't do enough DPS. So I changed the build multiple times to reflect that so I could feel a little bit better, and I feel like I've met that requirement now. I just need to level up the gems and get quality on my gems and stuff, and it'll feel a lot better. Moving forward, upgrade my gear, of course, because I'm pretty much SSF with most of my gear. So yeah, agnostic is definitely a choice if you want to just be uber tanky and never die. But I think having more damage is a more fun playstyle for me, so that's what I went with. So yeah, leveling up, definitely you can opt to go a different route. I know Grimmer went a little bit different of a route, more DPS oriented. I'm going to leave his POB down below as well. He's more DPS and he has an endgame variant, so I'm going to use that as a reference for endgame variant, or like a later game variant. But yeah, this is what I came up with. I feel like this is a good mix of tanky and a lot of damage. So important notes that we're taking. So I took precision just because I wasn't meeting the dex requirement, and it gives cast speeds, so that's what I went with. We grab a lot of block nodes. This makes us extra tanky. I like that a lot. I like how we're running shield. This is, you have to grab for your curse. I mentioned that earlier. We grab this for damage. The node you rush the fastest though is definitely Ancestral Bond. This is because it gives us an extra totem, which is just invaluable. So we want that as soon as possible. If you are questioning how to level this build, definitely watch my Leveling with Penguin series. And I pretty much explained my train of thoughts while leveling, what I went with. You could definitely change it up a little bit to reflect this tree a little better than I did before. But following that will be your best way to figure out how to level this build. Grabbing this for crit, definitely important. I like to grab both of these so we get a lot of shield block and a little bit of damage from our shield from Arcane Guarding and Mystic Bulwark and Prodigal Perfection. Definitely good notes to grab. But yeah, what I was leveling up to get was actually cast speed. Cast speed was something to make the build feel a lot smoother, so the next things I was going to invest into was mental rapidity, just to get the cast speed up a little bit more to feel better, and yeah, just make this build that much stronger. Unfortunately, and we don't really take advantage of the energy shield recharge rate, so it's whatever. As you can see, I only got one medium jewel because I'm not really leveled up. I'm only level 83, which is about day 2, day 3 average, so not too bad. But yeah, as you can see, I only have one medium jewel as of the time. You guys can look on the POB for other recommendations, but I did get a really good jewel. Ancestral Echo and Ancestral Reach. It was really easy to craft, just alt spamming and regal, using regals. It probably took like 7 regals and like 50 alterations to get this for me, so pretty doable early league if you do happen to get a totem medium cluster jewel to drop. Larges are not necessary unless you want to have 2 medium jewels. So the medium, this is what I have to explain to everyone, and most of you probably already know this. Large jewels aren't actually what give you a lot of damage. Large jewels are just a way to use more medium jewels. that's the way it's used in the meta. So large jewels give you 2 jewel slots to put 2 mediums on. So if you have 2 medium jewels, then you're going to start using a large jewel. But if you only have 1 medium jewel, just put in that medium jewel and use it. Don't go through a large jewel unless you have like a perfectly rolled one. Large jewels don't actually give you that much. In my opinion, large jewels are kind of a waste of passive points. They're better off going somewhere else. But medium jewels, it's pretty much always best in slot if it has a good build for it, to put in the mediums, as many as you can usually. So yeah, pretty much it for the passive tree. If you have any questions of why I chose stuff or why I didn't choose things, definitely leave a question down below and I'll answer that. Yeah, but as you can see, I didn't go on this right side. This right side has a lot of crit, like Throat Seeker, has Assassination. We're missing out on some of that stuff. That's on the Grimrose POB. Make sure you check that down below if you want to go more crit and damage oriented. This is like the medium safe and crit damage oriented, and then there's a super safe variant that I actually didn't enjoy. I don't know if I have the path of building for that anymore because it just wasn't working out for me. But if you guys really want to see a really tanky, hardcore, really safe variant, just leave a comment down below, and if I see anyone ask for it, I will make the POB. I will revive that POB, and I'll add it to the description, and I'll let you know. So yeah, anything else I want to go over? Pantheons are pretty simple. I didn't grab any of the extras. Garcon is great just for movement speed. Lunaris I pretty much always choose for the avoidance and chained and movement speed. Pretty simple. I want to make sure I don't forget anything. Oh, Ascendency, of course. So our first Ascendency is Pursuit of Faith, of course. Extra Totem, invaluable. Second one is Ritual of Awakening. This gives us a lot of extra damage per totem. So really, really strong. Our third, I actually went with Divine Guidance. This gives us more mana, and Transfiguration of Mind actually helps out quite a bit because we do grab a lot of mana when we can. And fourth, I grabbed Conviction and Power just because this is just a lot of flat damage and defense. So why not take it? It gives us a lot of crit. 4 power charges for free constantly. A lot of damage. You could also go like the Arcane Surge route, but that didn't seem as fun. It just seemed not as worth it as the current route I went. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for the video. I kind of went over everything I want to. If I missed anything, make sure you leave a comment down below. I'll try to answer that. I do have the form guide in the description. I do have the whole leveling with Penguin series I made, going through all 10 acts with this build. So anything you need, you guys can usually find in those. Use those sources to your convenience. And if anything else, just leave a comment down below and I'll try to answer you. This is kind of ready for 3.16. Might make some changes to the POB in the forum post when we get more information, when the patch notes come out. So I will try to upkeep on that for you guys if you guys are interested in this build. Thank you guys so much for checking this video out, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.